r/today I fricked up. Blueskissany1 says, today I fricked up be assuming that the car I bought in the US was set to MLS for 7 years. In 2016, my 18-year-old self purchased a common used car from an old man who lived in Ohio. Everything checked out, he had a clean title in hand, maintenance records, and the test drive revealed no issues. Shortly after purchasing the car, my father remarked that I was really putting on the miles fast, and as a result, there were pretty frequent oil changes. I brushed his comments aside as I did drive the car daily and take it on some weekend adventures. Fast forward to this year, with my car now at 179k, it had to go into a service shop for repair after some warning lights came on. The shop provided me with a diagnostic sheet from a tool they plugged into my car, which showed my car only had 111k miles. I pointed out the mistake, but the mechanic was confident the sheet was correct. We took a look at the odometer and he remarked how it was unusual that there was no indication of the unit it was in, but he noted the speedometer was labeled in miles. After some debate we pulled up a kilometers to miles calculator, finding that 179k kilometer equals, you guessed it, 111k miles. We then tested the theory by driving and recording the distance to check versus the odometer, and sure enough it confirmed our suspicions that my mileage was actually kilometage. The mechanic went to toggle the setting that should have put it back to miles, but discovered feature to be broken, leaving my car's odometer stuck in kilometers. He said I could pay to have someone try to fix it, but then pointed out that all of this car's records, title, maintenance, insurance, etc., including the ones from the previous owner, were also in kilometers, marked incorrectly as miles. Trying to reverse it back to miles would be a lengthy and expensive process, and I might get flagged for trying to commit odometer fraud by rolling it back. So now I'm stuck with my car with an odometer and all of its records in kilometers, marked incorrectly as miles. I'll likely be unable to sell it with the false paperwork and have spent hundreds of unnecessary dollars in extra oil changes and other routine maintenance based on the mileage. The upside is I purchased it for a good deal, since the previous owner was also under the impression that it was in miles. Too long, didn't read, my car's odometer has been in kilometers for at least 7 years and no. Desolator 543 says, hey, at least you know it was well maintained lmao. Boring _ Batchet says, yes, even if they serviced it 2,000 miles late every service they would still be early lol. Desolator 543 says, they need to keep the car, it belongs to Reddit now, and we need to know how long it runs for. Jetin Mibble Button says, sucks, but drive it till it dies and then sell it for scrap. Not only is this the most economical option, but it already has 179,000 kilometers on it. This would be a worse problem if it had lower mileage. Thijekamansa says, it's not mileage. Jetin Mibble Button says, here in Canada, where we use kilometers, we refer to distance driven on a vehicle as mileage. Shibishabi89 says, that's actually not bad. If it was like 300 kilometers, you'd be worried and looking for a new car. But 179 kms is amazing. Still got heaps of life left in it. Drumpluscamp says, if it was at 300k kilometers it would still have a lot less in miles than he thought. Pankakasitaya says, yeah, my car has 311k kilometers, which is around 193k miles. Turbangheto says, you're stoked your car has 68,000 miles less on it than you thought it did. That's worth way more than any additional $ you spent on maintenance. Eccentric says, plus he can always list it with the actual miles listed and explain to the buyer that it's reading KMS. Don't see an issue other than paperwork, which can be ignored when explained. Equivalent Show 2318 says, Would you believe a random stranger telling the car has like half the mileage shown on the odometer? Thenumad Max says, if you've been changing your oil at 3,000 kilometers instead of 5,000 kilometers and doing other regular maintenance ahead of schedule, then your car is probably in fantastic condition, and I would keep it for as long as you can and start underreporting your miles the next time you have to update your insurance and or registration. Quintix Blind says, 5,000 kilometers is way too early to be doing oil changes. LV_insane_VL says, yeah, I usually do 5,000 to 6,000 miles, like 8,000, 10,000 kilometers on my project car, and even that's pretty frequent. Dare_innkeeper says, you never checked your gas mileage when filling up. Trip odometer? Weren't thinking those oil changes were cropping up pretty quickly? Damn, son. r/today I fricked up. Crowed Source says, today I fricked up be getting locked out of my phone. I recently got a new phone, Pixel 7a, and it's been fine so far. Today I was chilling at home with my husband and I picked up my phone to look up something. I tried my fingerprint and it didn't work, so it asked me for the PIN. I entered my PIN and it didn't work. I kept trying and it wouldn't let me in. So I started asking myself what I could do to get into my phone if it wouldn't accept the correct PIN. Eventually I found that other people had had the same issue, and the only thing to be done is a factory reset. So I proceeded to factory reset the phone. But then it was having trouble downloading the data and syncing with my account. I didn't understand what was going on. It was very frustrating. My husband was very sympathetic with my situation. Then, my husband went to grab his phone, and that was the moment he realized that I was holding his phone and not mine. We have very similar phones with almost exactly the same cases, and from the front, they look exactly the same. Even the lock screen, which I had been looking at during my ordeal, is two versions of the same picture. So I'm a complete idiot. I picked up my husband's phone, thinking it was mine, couldn't get in, and ended up completely wiping his phone of everything before he told me it wasn't even my phone. He was pretty frustrated, especially since he isn't great at remembering passwords. I felt so incredibly stupid and so bad that I had reset his phone. He managed to get back into his account and recovered most of his stuff, besides a couple weeks of text messages. Thankfully, he wasn't mad and forgave me immediately. But I feel like a complete dumbass. Too long, didn't read, I couldn't get into my phone with the PIN, and ended up factory resetting it, but it wasn't my phone after all, it was my husband's. Oops. South 5 says, that is really dumb. Eagler Left 5225 says, too doofus. Sorry op, but come on, WTF. Abbott_of_Qcany says, spend $20 and get a new case that looks entirely different from his. Opdragon25 says, or just change the wallpaper. J8 Watt says, this is ridiculous, is your screen background screen the same? Loco8765 says, she said yes, and therein lies the real TIFU. Yet another what moment says, LPT, be sure to take full advantage of the Google Sync and backup functions that are tied to your Gmail. Calico98 says, get a different case, Jesus Christ. Pugrumble says, unless you both have pixels, literally all you had to do was turn the phone over and look at it 4.2 seconds. The camera setups are unique to Pixel phones and pretty identifiable. At no point did you think to stop and ask your husband to look at it? You just went straight to panic mode. That's just a little bit ridiculous. Elephant No 3640 says, LMAO. Glad he's a good sport about it. Benjamin 454 says, I did something like this on a work computer once. I was trying to log in, and it kept telling me my card didn't match with the password. My buddy started teasing me that I would get locked out if I didn't get it right. After several failures, he was right. I got locked out. I pulled my card out of the computer, disappointed I was going to have to drive to the customer support office to get it unlocked, when I realized my card was in fact his, and I had inadvertently locked his account. He quickly went from laughing hysterically to total silence. Then he spent the next 2 hours trying to get his account unlocked at it. Ghost for the 69 says, crazy idea, if the phones look similar use different cases and wallpapers. Tequileota says, tell him to start using Swift Backup and Bitwarden. Laz111 says, I know you didn't mean bad, but if I was your husband I would be really annoyed. My wife and I have the same phone, but very different cases. OnSystudent underscore says, how did you find out other people had the same problem? Did you pick up the other phone and unlock it with your fingerprint to go on Google? Gosh Timid from Imga says, looks like your husband's getting laid tonight. Crudely Animated says, you didn't get locked out of your phone. You locked and reset someone else's phone. At least use different wallpapers instead of 2 versions of the same picture. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.